The news on Airline Drive on Monday was quite surprising, but not for what happened, rather for what didn't happen. We'll talk about it next on the Black and Gold Today. Welcome to the Black and Gold Today, sponsored by Cadillac of New Orleans. I'm Jim Derry. Well, the question Monday morning wasn't whether Rob Ryan would be fired. It was a question of when and who would get the report first. Well, the answers came out that it would happen early Monday morning and Fox Sports would get it first, right? No. Instead, Sean Payton came out around lunchtime and said that Rob Ryan wasn't fired at all. Let's hear what he had to say.
I've been made aware of the speculation with regards to one of our coaches. I haven't met with Mickey Loomis or any of the coaches individually yet, and Mickey and I will spend some time today and some time tomorrow. And with regards to any potential change, you know, we would let you guys, you'd be the first to hear about it, but that's not, that's something we haven't even met on. And so I would always meet with Mickey, and that would be something that would not be done without, you know, a lot of thought. And we're talking about one coach. Any type of change like that would be something that would be done, you know, with a lot of discussion. Next question.
Is that the kind of change that could be in consideration with the way things are right now?
Listen, all those things you consider change, right? So, yeah, and yet at the same time, we haven't even begun to sit down and broach that subject. So,
along with Saints reporter Christopher Dabe, and Chris, do you believe what you heard today?
Well, I believe it to the extent that nothing at this very minute has been done as of Monday afternoon, whatever time it is. But as Sean Payton said, he needs to meet with Mickey Loomis, the general manager, and I'm sure there's a process that he wants to follow. Whether at this moment he's talked with Rob Ryan or talked with Mickey or however it's going to go. No, I believe what he said is technically true, but I think there's something in the works where there's going to be a change, whether it's a dismissal of a coach or a change of responsibilities or whatever it may be. You kind of figure something has to be done.
Yeah, and the public is always skeptical of us, media types, just in general. But, you know, these reports don't generally just come out of thin air. People don't make these things up. So there's got to be something that triggered this report from Fox Sports. We just don't know what it is. So, like you said, there's got to be something in the works.
Yeah, certainly. Like you said, the Fox Sports report, Alex Marvez, I think, was the reporter. He cited two sources. You figure these reporters, they have the jobs that they do for a reason that they're well sourced. And I think also it's not a great reach to say that something might be happening with Rob Ryan, considering the state of the defense. They're last in the league in yards, touchdown passes. I think it's the last 17 touchdown passes given up without getting an interception. Now, like our Larry Holder has written in a column, the Saints defense is making other teams' quarterbacks look like Tom Brady, and you can't do that on a week-in and week-out basis.
And they did it again with Kirk Cousins yesterday, who believe had a perfect passer rating, and maybe the first time since maybe he was in high school that Kirk Cousins had a perfect passer rating.
Yeah, who knows how long it's been for him. And it was an interesting couple of stats out of the game. One, this was the second game in Saints history that they gave up 300 passing yards and 200 rushing yards. The only other time that happened was against Peyton Manning-led Denver Bronco team in 2012. And then another stat, 300 yards, 80% completion, at least 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. First time done since Tom Brady in 2007. So, like I was just saying, they're making other teams' quarterbacks look like some of the all-time greats.
Well, and you know, like back then and in 2012, after one season where they were historically bad, they made changes, and you know, like Sean Payton said today at camp, they aren't going to continue to go on this road. So even though they haven't made a change yet, you can't accept the status quo.
Yeah, that's true, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jim, that he did mention that something has to change, whatever it is. We can think whatever we want it is, but I think that's an important thing to mention is that Sean Payton has identified this, and he kind of hinted at this last week when he said at some point you stop punishing the children, you start looking at the parents for the misbehaving kids. And I kind of think looking back on that, he was offering us a pretty strong clue as to what his mindset was going into this game against Washington, where if they didn't have a good showing, maybe it's time to hold the parents accountable.
And speaking of the kids, we haven't really even talked about Brandon Browner, but maybe we'll get into that on Tuesday. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Hey, glad to help you out.
And we'll be right back with today's Extra Point.
What's one of the nicest things that comes with your new Cadillac from Cadillac of New Orleans? 0% interest.
Get 0% interest on all new Cadillacs, now at Cadillac of New Orleans. New owners, new attitude, on Lime Street in Rye in Metairie.
And for today's Extra Point, let's look at just how bad this defense has been. You can't hear it enough, right? Well, let's compare it to 2012 and Steve Spagnuolo's historically bad defense here. And in 2012, the Saints gave up 2,361 rushing yards, which was last in the league, 4,681 passing yards, which was second to last in the league, for a total of 7,042 yards, worst in the history of the NFL. They also gave up 454 points. Well, let's compare that to what kind of pace the Saints are on at the moment. And right now, the Saints are on a pace to give up 2,125 yards, which is just a little less than they gave up in 2012. But passing yards, they're on a pace to give up 4,670, which is 11 yards less than they gave up in 2012. So that is a total of 6,814, which is just 200 yards less than they gave up. That historically bad defense that we talked about gave up. So, but points-wise, here's one. The Saints are giving up 31.5 points per game. 31.5 points per game. That's 4 touchdowns and a field goal. They're on pace to give up 504 points this season, which is 50 more than they gave up in 2012. So I think Rob Ryan is in trouble after all, but we'll have to wait until later in the week to see whether it happens in the bye week or later on, or who knows. Maybe the Saints actually can correct the problems, right? Yeah. Well, we'll talk about this a little bit more on Tuesday. We'll see what we have going on then. Thanks for joining us on the Black and Gold Today.